everybody, and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Paladin. Now, this is not the same as Outcast's Paladin build. In fact, I made this before Outcast released his build. This was actually designed and tested during the... I made it during Horns of the Reach and tested it a little, but I didn't get to test it until... really test it until the Clockwork City update. And that in Clockwork City I actually changed the build from what it was to what it is. Now before it was running Ebon and a Nether tank set kind of that gave it a benefit, and I wind up changing that around to two other sets. This is a really supportive off-tank build, I'll just tell you that. This is like the most supportive off-tank I've ever made. Besides the sap tank, which is pretty close to this, but this actually utilizes a little bit more. The sap tank's a really good tank build, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. The Nightblade support tank that I made, it's called the sap tank. This is the Paladin. This is a Templar support off tank. It's not a main tank, it's an off tank. And just like the sap tank, I said it was an off tank, not a main tank. So these are builds I've made. Now I want to give a shout out real quick before I go any further to Outcast. He's been doing some really great build releases lately because he's been offering the community builds outside of the normal meta and releasing releasing tank builds in other classes that are meta type, that are made for the meta, but they're not meta. Like he even states they're not competitive in-game builds, but they can be used at in-game. He just doesn't suggest it because a lot more people play the meta at in-game, at trial levels. Now, he's right, and he's right in a sense, and he's wrong in a sense. No offense against Outcast. There is a large portion of the community at in-game that plays the meta. There's also a lot of people at the in-game that don't play meta. They play what they want. They play what they enjoy. They play what they have fun with. And remember, the builds I've made, this update, is to help people get to in-game. It's not to give them builds to play at in-game. It's to give them options to play to get to in-game. These builds are made for dungeons and trial beginner runs, you know, like trial runs in normal, and then beginner runs in vet to get you trained in vet content. If you want to play the meta, play the meta. I'm not telling you you can't. I'm just offering the community other options. So let's get right into the build. Now, I can't change the name when I already had it set. And it would be really weird. Oh, hey, this is the Knights, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or this is something else. And I originally called it the Paladin for a reason. And then he took it. Damn it. No, just kidding. It's cool. I don't mind. So just think of mine as a different iteration of his. His is the meta version. This is the non-meta version. I even have a couple skills in here unlocked where I show you, hey, you can take this and slide in here, and it's going to give you this benefit. So right out the door, you're going to notice that me and his build is actually quite similar. His build runs 40k health, though. He runs an Argonian, and that's cool. I think it's really good that he does choose an Argonian. The Argonian is right now showing the best results for in-game players because of their potion passive. They get a ton of resources back whenever they use potions. So they do make really good tanks in the in-game right now. But you can still play a lot of other options, guys. We're both running about 23, 24 stamina magicka, somewhere in there, between 20 and 25. Okay, now this build here works better with a little bit greater magicka, but trying to get the stamina higher is like trying to get the balance in there. Like I tried to balance it out with the way I have mine set up, and it just doesn't work. Like as you can see, like I'd have to take out of stamina, I'd have to take away stats on the build itself to lose magicka, and I could do that. I could take the tri-stats off and put all health glyphs on the armor and then dump everything in the stamina, and that would work out, but I kind of need the high magicka pool in order for the abilities to work. And that's the part that sucks, is in order for abilities to work, sometimes you have to go higher. So a Dark Elf would be better in this routine, because a Dark Elf I could set it at 24k Magicka and be good, and then fill in the health, and then fill in the stamina, and be good. I can make the stamina higher because they get 6% max stamina. And Templars don't get extra Magicka. I'm not using anything to give me extra magic except for the Breton race. So it kind of sucks, but the Breton is a really good Templar, and I'll get to the reason why in here in a minute. So 24k Magicka, 30k health, 22k stamina, 13k magic recovery, or 1300 magic recovery, 1600 spell damage, 1400 weapon damage, 22 crit, 23 crit. You know, the crit thing doesn't really matter. It still helps to have a little bit of crit no matter what you're playing, to give you just a tad bit, you know, extra damage capabilities. But this build, the way it works, is really cool. So 25k spell resistance with a 20k physical resistance. This is within margin of a tank, so it's just right there on the edge of being like not tanking capable. And I'm not kidding. It's right on the verge. This physical resistance, if it was 1k less, it would be right on the verge of being like really bad. And any lower, and you're talking like you're not going to tank that good with it. So moving on though, we are running the Atronach Mundustone, we are running Ebon Armory, and we are using Tri-Stat Food. Now, the only reason why I'd use the Atronach Mundustone is because of the magic recovery. You just need that magic recovery, guys. Ebon Armor is for the extra health to your allies kind of thing. It's a support set. It's a really good support set. I'm not going to say it's not. And then moving on, of course, Tri-Stat Food. Going into the gear, we are running Sentinel set. We are running a both light and medium here. And the light shoulders is sturdy with a medium helm infused. Now, why did I choose light shoulders over a light helm? Honestly, if you set it up the other way, it's going to come out to about the same in resistances. It is. It's going to be like 100 off, but it's going to be about the same. So I just went with this because it still works. Tri-stats in the big pieces, all three of the, well, 4 of the big pieces. So your helm, your chest, your legs, and your shield. You can go with all health glyphs and just dump everything into stamina if you want, so you can get that offset of like, hey, I have more stamina than I do magicka, and I'm not gonna have my magicka, you know, like getting return from orbs and shards versus my stamina. So you can do that. And I could even just show you guys real quick if you guys wouldn't mind me doing that. So, and I need 5 of those. Oops, what the heck? Get out of there. Get out of there, you stupid computer. Stop it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So if I enchant this with the health, with the health, and then you'll see I'm at 22k stam, or magicka, 20k stam. Now, it's still the same. It is still the same. Now, if I go into here, and I respec real quick, and I'm just going to put 20 in here, and I'm going to dump everything else in the stamina. And you can see even now I'm still off by a little bit. So I just need to get it right around the same. So I'm going to do this instead. We're going to do a little bit differently. We're just going to put 14 in here, and we're going to put the rest. We're going to put all of 50 in this. So now we're almost again on the same spec. And this is the hard part, guys. This is why a lot of us... Oh my god, stop, computer. Or hands, or whatever. So this is what can be really challenging, difficult for a lot of people to figure out. Is where do I put my stats? How do I get my stats right? And that's pretty much what I'm trying to do here, is get my stat pool in the right place. And that is almost exactly where we need to be with this. So, oops, that's the wrong button. Let's go in here. We'll just do it one more time. And this time we're just going to put very little into health. So we're going to probably only go like 1, 2, 4, and then just dump all 60 into here. Now we're over. Now this will work out better from spear shards and stuff, just showing you guys, because spear shards or orbs are going to give you your main stat back. So this being just over the stamina pool and this being just under magicka, the only problem with it is this. When I use this ability, there's always that chance that you're going to end up with more magicka because you have the greater return of magicka than you do stamina. But luckily enough, I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't affect it. So you still get stamina back from orbs and shards and not magicka. Now, with the 1300 magic recovery, and when you use a pot, you end up with a 1600 magic recovery, which is pretty good. It's not the full cost of your abilities or anything like that. It will take up some of the cost of your abilities, which is good, and it saves you magic and it gives you magic return while you're blocking. And orbs and potions and things like that are what you use to get your stamina back. So you can do this kind of setup, but honestly, it only works with a limited option of choices. So, like if you're running a resto, like an ice staff and a sword and shield, you can block with the ice staff and let your stamina regen, and you're going to use up magicka, or you can use shield and block and you can regen your magicka. But there is some tools you can use in the game, and that's where Sentinels, the set, comes into play. Sentinels allows you to recover stamina and health while you're in combat, as long as you heal yourself or a friendly target. You have a 10% chance to summon this Dwemer spider that's going to do that. So that's why Sentinels is really good. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get that to work just now, guys. That's my fault, and I apologize. But I do want to go over this, guys, so you guys can see it. Sentinels is another set that you can use to return stamina, and over 8 seconds it'll return 4,000 stamina. So you can stand there holding block, and as your block's being ticked away, you're getting stamina back, which is covering the cost of that blocking at that time. Especially if your block is around, you know, if it's 336, you're actually going to get over stamina back while you're blocking. If it's, you know, if you're not using any block cost and chance, you're wearing non-all divine, you know, you're wearing non-all sturdy gear, then you want you're gonna have like better, like 500 and something cost. So you're basically getting that cost back for those 4 seconds, but you have to heal. So that means you have to hold block, and you have to do things like this. Why is this acting all weird? So you have to do things like this, and you have to put down this circle and block while you're in it. And while this circle's down, as you can see, I have minor mending, so I can actually cast this again and get extra healing. 8% minor mending. So, but yeah, it helps. So let's go back in here and take a look at this stuff. So we are running the Sentinel Rise Legume, like I said, medium and light, infused helm, infused chest, infused legs. You can go all without. You can go all the other way, but it's up to you to decide. Now, this is Ebon Armor, and Ebon Armor gives you max health in 2 and 3 piece. It gives you a 4 piece is healing taken, and then the 5 piece is extra health to you and your group by 1,000. Now, this is a great set, guys, don't get me wrong, but to be honest, if you're playing a race that has a low health pool, like a Breton, a Nord, or not a Nord, a Breton, and a High Elf, a Dark Elf, a Wood Elf, an Argonian, or not Argonian, a Khajiit. If you're playing one of those races that has no health benefits, this set's not as good for you, because it doesn't give you the benefit of extra health. Plague Doctors is a much better set for you, or even Green Pact is a much better set for you than running something like Ebon Armor. And that's because it just gives you more health. You have to take that loss of like, oh gosh, I can't run Ebon because I'm playing this race instead. So it kind of sets it off, and that's what I wanted to show with this, is even with all the armor with health enchants and building into Ebon Armor, you know, benefits, using a Breton, I don't get as much health as an Argonian. I don't get that 9% max health. And honestly, I think the stats are a little too low for this build to be viable. Because that low of magicka, any magic ability I use is going to be pretty much garbage. Any stamina ability I use is going to be pretty much garbage. This is why I make most of my builds, to have a higher magicka and lower stamina, or a higher stamina and lesser magicka, is because that way you're building into what you're using. Now this is a magicka build. It's kind of useless not to use any magic ability, or to not benefit from the max magicka. Now I can't because I don't have the resources for it. So, just pointing that out. But it still, you know, it still works. It still does its job. It's just, the abilities I use are just basically just gone to poo. So, moving down the line, we are running Spell Power Cure, which gives us increased spell damage. You can, when you heal somebody, you can give spell damage and weapon damage out to them as long as they're within. People say it doesn't have a range. It does have a range, and I'm still trying to figure out its range, but it's not. It's wherever the heal is, the target that's healed is where it goes from, where the Spell Power Cure applies. So wherever the heal is, that person. So if it's a single target heal, they'll get Spell Power Cure. If it's an AoE heal that you set down, like Healing Springs, it's wherever that heal is. Wherever you heal, you get Spell Power Cure. So it's not as big of an area as you think. Not unless everyone's stacked together like sardines. Alright, so moving on. Next we have Spell Power Cure Infused Sword. We are using 2 Infused Swords, 2 Sturdy Shields. Now remember, the 4 smaller pieces on this build are sturdy, and the 3 larger ones are infused. You can play all sturdy if you want. The change in health is going to be big, but it's not going to make it like, oh god, you can't play this way. If I was going to go sturdy on everything, I would actually drop the Ebon and go Plague Doctor. I'm just telling you that right now. That's what I would do. But Spell Power Cure is a really good set to use because it's a good group support. Mostly healers run this at in-game, but if you don't have a healer, you know, like your healers aren't running it, you can run it as a tank to kind of counteract that. Plus, you're right there in the fight. So you laying down heals right there in the fight, like throwing out Vigor or just, you know, using the class heal that you have, can benefit the group with Spell Power Cure because you're already there. The healer doesn't have to aim a bunch of heals to try and get Spell Power Cure applied to everybody. You're right there. You can get Spell Power Cure applied in a better sense. That's what I'm getting at. So 2 infused swords, both one running hardening, one running crusher. Like I said, this isn't like Outcast. This is different. But he runs crusher and weakening. And you can do the same thing if you feel it's important. But honestly, this works out just as well. So, alright, so let's get into the skills. The skills are a lot different than what he runs. I'm not going to lie. But that's because of the way this build is set up. So, I do want to go over the class skills. So, if you look at the class skills here, you want to make sure when it comes to passives, just get all the passives for your class, max them out. And whatever weapon type you're using, make sure you max it out. Now, when it comes to armor, depending on the armor type you're using, if you're wearing 5 heavy, fill in the 5 heavy. If you're wearing 1 medium, fill in the top 2 and the bottom 1 of medium. And the reason I say fill in the top 2 and the bottom 1, this extra critical can help. It's a small amount, but it still helps. This here gives you stamina recovery and stamina cost. This helps. And then this down here, athletics. This helps. Because it increases your sprint speed by 3%, and it also gives you the dodge roll cost reduction by 4%. These two here, the improved sneak and the agility, you can't get agility anyways, but improved sneak is useless to you. So there's no point in putting points into it. When it comes to world skills, if you're playing a vampire, go with the vampire stuff, you know, the thing that gives you the greater damage mitigation below 50% health, the thing that gives you the better stamina and magic return, that's good to get. But when it comes to soul magic, soul summons and soul luck are really good. And then moving on down the line, Fighters Guild, there's no reason to fill out all the Fighters Guild passes if you're not using any of the abilities. It's just useless. You only need 2. Intimidating Presence and Banish the Wicked. Banish the Wicked to generate 9 ultimate when you kill an undead, danger, or werewolf. You're not using, like I said, any other abilities. So Slayer's useless. And Skilled Tracker's useless. Bounty Hunter you can get if you do a lot of PvP in Cyrodiil. And then the Mage's Guild. For this, I only unlock Persuasive Will. Now, this is an ability I want to point out to people. This is called Equilibrium. Equilibrium allows you to sacrifice health for Magicka in return. Now, if you unlock all these things, it makes this beneficial. But I'm not going to go through and unlock them all. I just want to show you what this does. So this one, you sacrifice health to give you Magicka. And there is 2 morphs. One is called Spell Symmetry, which is when you sacrifice health, you get Magicka. But it also, after the exchange is complete, the cost of your next magic ability is reduced by 25% for 5 seconds. So this is a great way. You can hit this, cast your damage shield. Hit this, cast your damage shield. And it'll save you 25% of the cost. So this is another way that you can reduce the cost of spells and stuff and everything else. Now, the exchange for your healing done, the exchange reduces your healing done and your shield strength applied by 4 seconds. This is only from you. Anyone else can still heal you at full strength. Anyone else applies a damage shield to you, it's going to be at their strength. Your own damage shields are reduced by 50%, and it only lasts for 4 seconds. It's not that long. Now, the next ability is really awesome, and that is Balance. Balance also grants you Major Ward and Major Resolve. For some classes, this is a great skill to use. For the Templar, the loss of benefits from your own Major Ward, Major Resolve buff is not worth it. So this is why Outcasts don't want Spell Symmetry on the Templar. Templars use a lot of magic abilities anyways, just as much as a DK. So taking Spell Symmetry is a good choice because you can put it down here somewhere. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and put it right here, even though I don't want to give up this heal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this heal to the back bar. I'm going to get rid of the Breath of Life. Actually, I should probably get rid of this and get the Breath of Life back. So this is what you can do. Like, I could actually leave this on the front bar and put Spell Symmetry on the back bar. So when I cast this, I pretty much get the resource back pretty quick. But if I cast this, Breath of Life, look how much magic it's using. Now I need to get some of that magic back. And I can even put this, you know, like, I can even put this down and get a tick heal going. Put this down, and then, like I said, I can cast my Breath of Life, do Spell Symmetry, and I'm still getting a little bit of that health back. But because of how this, like I said, this build works, like, the heal from this is just destroyed now because of how we just did that, how we adjusted the stamina or the magic pool and the health and all that. It's really low now. The heal from this is really, really low. And the magic damage is still pretty good. The Purify synergy is really good. But it hurts it too much. So I'm just going to finish going, guys, so over the rest of this. So moving on to the Undaunted, make sure you get these 2 passives. And then moving on through the Assault skills, Aggressive Warhorn, Support, Purge, and Efficient Purge and Replenishing Barrier. And then down here on the Breton side, make sure you get all the passives. And Alchemy, Medicinal Use, and Provisioning, Gourmand, and Carnosaur. Now, there is a reason why I chose the Breton. First off, I need to show you this. Breton, or Wardens get a thing in here called Restoring Spirit. Restoring Spirit reduces the cost of magic, stamina, and ultimate abilities by 4%. Bretons make really good Templars because they also get 3% reduced cost in magicka. So as a tank, that's already 7% reduced cost. Now, the cool thing is that because I'm wearing 1 light, I also get another 2%, which means I have a 9% reduced cost of magic abilities. Now, think about this. When you wear a 5-1-1 setup with light armor, you get a 10% reduced cost in magic abilities. If you're playing a Breton, you get 13. If you're playing a Dark Elf, you get nothing. If you're playing a High Elf, you get nothing, just the 10%. Playing a Breton, I get 13. And then being a Templar, I get another 4% on top of it. So that's a 17% reduced cost. As a tank, anything I can do to save resources going out saves me the stuff. This is why I have it set up this way as a Breton, is it saves me 9% of the cost. Now, a lot of people are like, but that's not really that much. That can be a lot. It can be life or death, to be honest. So getting that 9% reduced cost makes my shields cost below 4K. That saves me magicka. Not as much as I'd like now because of the lower magicka pool than what I had when I originally created this build. This originally had 26k magicka, 22k stamina almost, and a 30k health. But it doesn't have that anymore because of the things I've changed about the build. And honestly, I don't like the way it feels. But some people might, and if you like the way it feels, continue to play it. So going on over the skills here, I'm not even going to worry about going over the rest of the passives. We're just going to go over the skills. The first skill we have is Ritual of Retribution. This is a nice area of effect heal for you and your group members. It also does magic damage, and it's a great synergy. And this is how you're going to pop Spell Power Cure. This has a 12-meter range, so anyone standing within this 12 meters is going to get Spell Power Cure. It's really good. Next up, we have Pierce Armor, which is a really good ability. It puts Major Fracture, Major Breach, also taunts, and it can do a little bit of damage. Next up, we have Blazing Shield. This is your main damage shield that you are going to be like living in. This is probably, like, strength-wise, it is overall the strongest damage shield in the game besides Bone Shield, strength-wise. The DK's damage shield's great because it applies to multiple targets. But no one has a shield as strong as the Templar. The reason why the Templar shield is so strong is it grows in strength for each enemy around you. So the more enemies you have, the bigger the shield gets. Now, it doesn't get massively huge. It gets really big, and the thing about it is that when the Blazing Shield comes off, it does damage. And it has a chance of proccing extra damage. And that extra damage comes from this passive here, in the Adrix Spear line, called Burning Light. And it basically, when the shield explodes, it has a 25% chance to do extra damage. So it's a really good combination there. Alright, so we got the Blazing Shield. Next we have Absorb Magic. Absorb Magic is there for the mitigation purposes, the while slotted passive thing. And that's basically, it helps you reduce the damage you take by additional damage you take from blocking by 8%, and it also reduces the cost of blocking by 8%. So it saves you a lot of stuff, resources and damage that you take. Next up, we have Efficient Purge, which is just really good at cleansing and removing negative effects. And then we have Warhorn, or Aggressive Warhorn, which applies max magicka, max stamina, max health to anyone within 20 meters of you for 30 seconds, and it gives them major force for 9.5 seconds, increasing their critical damage done by 15%. Moving on, we have our Inner Rage. This is a ranged taunt, and it's a really good taunt, don't get me wrong. It does do that, and it's a synergy. That's what makes it a really good tool to use at end game. Next up, we have Heroic Slash, another good ultimate gen skill. It also applies Minor Maim for 12 seconds, which reduces the enemy's damage by 15%. It also does damage, and it does the movement speed thing, but they changed that to 4 seconds from the 12 that it did before. So, kind of sucks, but hey. Next up, we have Blazing Spear. Now, why do we have Blazing Spear on the back bar? So we get the benefit of Spear Wall even on the back bar. Now, we won't get that 8% extra from this, but we do get the 15% extra melee attack blocking. We also get the 15% from Sword and Shield from ranged attacks. So we actually block 35% more damage on both front and back bar. The next ability I'm going to show you is going to be the offset to not having that 8% from the front bar from this. And that is restoring focus, because it grants us minor protection and minor vitality. That minor protection is 8% damage reduction. When you're blocking, when you're standing still, you're always getting 8% damage reduction. So you'll see why I have my champion points set up the way I do. I don't have it set up how I have it normally set up, and that's because I needed to get a little bit of something else to make this build work. So last but not least is replenishing barrier. Now the reason I chose replenishing barrier is because of my stat pools being so much lower. Replenishing barrier is the better option because it's also an ultimate generation tool, and it gives magicka back. It's a small amount, but it still helps. So I chose replenishing barrier for that instead of reviving barrier. And that, my friends, is the Paladin's skills. So you can change the skills and all that kind of stuff to your preference of choice if you want. I just like this setup. So going into the champion points here, we have 23 into Ironclad, which gives us a 10% damage mitigation from direct damage. We have a 23% in here on Thick Skin, giving us, damage reduction. 10% damage reduction from damage over time effects. We have 43 in Hardy, 43 in Elemental Defender, both giving us 10%. That circle protection we put down, that restoring focus, actually puts it down and applies it to this. It's 8% damage mitigation from this. So with that with this, we actually have a 28% damage reduction. And then if you add in this one, it's 28%. Now, here's one of the things you have to understand. Ironclad reduces direct damage. Not all, a lot of enemies do direct damage, but most of that direct damage is derived from, can anyone tell me? Light and heavy attacks. And that's why Expert Defender is really important to take. It's because it increases that mitigation by another 10%. So, moving on, we have 56 in the Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of our damage shields by 20%. We take 7 points and put in a quick recovery to increase our healing received by another 2%. And then we take into account, we have really low resistances. Now, so we need this here. You don't, it's not a matter of want, it's a matter of I need this. Otherwise your physical resistance is too low to be viable as a tank. I have tested, and you gotta have this here for this particular build. Now, if I was running the Lady Mundustone, I wouldn't need this. But I'm not running the Lady Mundustone, I'm running the Atronach for the increased health recovery. And honestly, if I was running the Lady Mundustone, I'd be over spell resistance. So moving on, we have 23 into Warlord, 16 into Sprinter. Both of these giving us 10%. One 10% reduced block or break free cost. One 10% reduced sprint cost. Over here we have 75 in Arcanus. This increases our magic recovery by 14%. 43 into Tenacity. This increases our stamina return from all of our heavy attacks since we are using only sword and shield. Wearing 5 pieces of heavy armor, you get 25%. Baseline 30. So in total, you get 65% return in your heavy attacks. Moving on, we have 56 in the Shadow Ward, reducing our block cost by 20%. We have 17 into Tumbling. You guys remember when I was mentioning about the 1 piece of medium armor? Well, we actually have an 11% reduced dodge roll cost because of it now. And then here we have 10% in effectiveness to our healing reduction abilities. This is if you need to use Reverb Bash, just like on Dire Frost Keep alone or whatever. Alright, moving on. We have 43 into Blessed. This increases the healing done by 10%. We have 23 into Elfborn. This increases damage and healing of your critical strikes from magic abilities by 10%. So this is just there for critical heals mainly. You're not really worried about the critical damage because your damage is super low anyways. But it can help do increased damage. But still, the healing is more to the effect. We have 43 into Elemental Expert. This does increase your Flame Frost, Shock, and magic damage done. All your abilities you're doing are magic damage. So getting that 10% in there does help, just like this does help with the critical damage. Moving over here, we have 25 into Physical Weapon Expert and 37 into Master at Arms. This increases light and heavy attack by 15%. This increases your direct damage by 15%. And then we have 23 into Shattering Blows, increasing damage done to your enemies with damage shields. Now, you don't have to put into here. You don't. I just do it because I know the game really well, and I know what NPCs have damage shields and which don't. And I'd much rather kill them fast than waste my time. So, 43 into Mighty. This gives you 10% increase in physical damage, which does stack with this 30% here, which makes it 40% in that. And then you still get a 10% increase in all your magic damage. So, just saying. It kind of balances out in the end. Like, because you have a lower stamina than you do Magicka normally with this build. Mighty, this helps your physical damage more. This and this help with your spell damage. So, it kind of balances out. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the skills, the stats, the CP. We're going to go ahead and just look at this build in use. I can't show you guys this build in a dungeon, but I will say this. I almost play something, I've tested something very similar on live. Minus the spell power cure. I was actually running another set, but still running the same kind of thing. Sentinels, that kind of thing. Oops. And if you're wondering why I'm holding block while they're hitting on some of these attacks, is because even holding block might not mitigate the damage, but you see that my shield came off and I still mitigated some of the damage. So that's why I did that. And the nice thing is that when you switch bars, you can still use Breath of Life while blocking, and you can also use Spear Shards while blocking. Pretty much every ability this build has, you can use while blocking. And that was a bash that I killed him with. But that's pretty much the build. I mean, it works out pretty good. I like the build. I won't say I love it, but I like the build. I like how it works. I just don't like how low those two stats are, is all. It's not in my comfort level. So everyone has their own like play style, their own comfort level, and it's really good to be in that comfort level of what you like. If you like more health, pick a race with more health. If you like the stamina pool being higher than the magic pool, do that. If you're more comfortable with more magicka, you've got to have a way to get that stamina resource return. That's where the Sentinel set comes in. It's kind of like the counter balance. And it works out really good. So this build can be played as support, as an off tank. Do not main tank with this ever. It just doesn't it doesn't work really good as a main tank because you have all those other abilities going on. You want to be an off tank because when you're not tanking, you have the ability to use these abilities more effectively, like those heals and the stuff. So it comes in handy to have that. Just saying. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the Paladin build. I hope you guys like it. I like the build. I think it's really good. But check out Outcast build for version 2. You might like that one for a more of an in-game build once you get there. This can help you get there, get to that point, you know. And then if you want, you can switch to his build and go play it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, check it out. It's really cool. So major shout out to Outcast and his new builds. Thank you, Outcast. I'm glad that you're, you know, at least trying to offer more to the community. I know it takes a lot of work because this last 2 weeks, guys, has been literally, and I hate to use foul language, but even though it's not really foul language, it's been hell on my life because I've been so involved trying to get these builds out that it's just consumed a lot of my time. And I know why he sticks to the limited amount of builds he releases, because it's really hard to focus on a lot of different builds. And he sticks to the meta because he knows a lot of people play the meta. So That's why he does what he does. So, but again, thank you for offering the builds. It's cool. But other than that, that's it for now. So if you guys like this video, please hit the like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me or other videos by me, please hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.